Have you ever felt like your life was a sinking ship, waves crashing, no land in sight, and no idea how to steer it back to shore? That was me, not too long ago. I was lost, broken, and drowning in a sea of my own mistakes. I had everything society told me I should want: money, a career, a social circle. But inside, I was empty. I'd wake up every day with this gnawing feeling that something was missing, like a puzzle piece I couldn't find. I tried filling that void with work, relationships, even fleeting pleasures, but nothing stuck. I was spiraling, and I didn't even know it until the day I hit rock bottom. That's when Jesus found me, not in some grand cinematic moment, but in the quiet wreckage of my life. Today, I'm not the same person I was. My life has transformed in ways I never thought possible. Peace where there was chaos, purpose where there was despair. This isn't just my story. It's a roadmap for anyone who's searching, hurting, or ready for a change. In this video, I'm going to take you through my journey, how I went from a life of emptiness to one filled with faith, hope, and love, all because of Jesus. Stick with me, because if he could change me, he can change you too. Before Jesus came into my life, I was a mess, though you wouldn't have known it from the outside. I grew up in a small town, the kind where everyone knows your name, but not your struggles. My parents worked hard, and I was taught to chase the American dream. Get good grades, land a solid job, build a life. And I did. By my mid-20s, I had a decent career in marketing, a nice apartment, and friends who'd show up for drinks on Friday nights. On paper, I was winning. But inside, I was crumbling. It started small. Anxiety that wouldn't quit, sleepless nights, a vague sense that I wasn't enough. I'd scroll through social media, comparing myself to everyone else, feeling like I was falling behind even though I was checking all the boxes. Work became my escape. I'd pour hours into projects, chasing promotions, thinking that the next raise or title would fix me. It didn't. Then came the relationships. Shallow connections that left me lonelier than ever. I'd date someone, hoping they'd fill the hole in my heart, but when it ended, I'd feel worse than before. The tipping point came in 2022. I just lost a big client at work. My girlfriend of 2 years walked out, and my best friend moved across the country. I remember sitting in my apartment, staring at a bottle of whiskey, wondering how I'd gotten here. I wasn't suicidal, but I wasn't really living either. I was just existing. That night, I drank too much, cried myself to sleep, and woke up with a hangover and a question. Is this all there is? I tried fixing myself. Self-help books, meditation apps, gym memberships, you name it, I bought it, but nothing stuck. The harder I tried, the more I realized I couldn't save myself. I was stuck in a cycle of chasing temporary fixes for a permanent problem. That's when something unexpected happened. I wasn't raised in a religious home. Sure, we went to church on Christmas and Easter, but faith wasn't a big part of my life. So when my mom mailed me her old Bible after that awful night, I almost threw it in a drawer and forgot about it. But something, call it curiosity, call it desperation, made me open it. The pages were worn, underlined with her handwriting from years ago. I flipped to a random verse, John 16 verse 33. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Those words hit me like a freight train. Trouble? Yeah, I had plenty of that. But overcome? That was new. I didn't become a believer overnight. It wasn't like the skies parted and angels sang, but I kept reading. Bits and pieces at first, then whole chapters. I started watching sermons online, listening to people talk about Jesus like he was a friend, not just a name in a book. One Sunday, I worked up the courage to visit a church nearby. I sat in the back, awkward and out of place, but the pastor said something that stuck with me. You don't have to fix yourself to come to Jesus. He meets you where you are. That was the turning point. I'd spent years trying to fix my life, but here was someone saying I didn't have to, that Jesus would take me, broken and all. I went home, got on my knees and prayed for the first time in years. It wasn't fancy, just a messy, honest, God, if you're real, help me. And you know what? He did. The change didn't happen all at once. It was slow, like dawn breaking after a long night. First came peace, a quiet I hadn't felt in years. The anxiety that used to choke me started to loosen its grip. I'd still have bad days, but they didn't own me anymore. I'd pray, read scripture, and somehow find strength to keep going. Then came purpose. I'd always thought purpose was tied to a job or a paycheck, but Jesus showed me it's bigger than that. I started volunteering at a local shelter, something I'd never have done before. I met people who'd been through worse than me, addiction, homelessness, loss, and yet they had this hope I couldn't explain. They'd talk about Jesus like he was their lifeline, and I got it. He was becoming mine too. My relationships changed too. I stopped chasing shallow connections and started investing in real ones. I joined a small group at church, and for the first time, I had friends who cared about my soul, not just my status. I even forgave my ex, something I never thought I'd do. It wasn't easy, but Jesus taught me that holding on to bitterness was like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. Work became less of an idol. I still did my job, but it didn't define me anymore. I'd pray before meetings, ask for wisdom, and trust that God had a plan, even when things went wrong. And they did. Life didn't get perfect. I still had bills, stress, and setbacks. But the difference was, I wasn't alone in it. Jesus was with me every step. The biggest shift was in my heart. I used to live for myself, my goals, my happiness. Now, I wanted to live for something bigger. I started sharing my story with others, even when it felt awkward. I'd tell coworkers, friends, even strangers how Jesus changed me. Some laughed, some listened, but I didn't care. Found a truth worth sharing. Faith isn't a magic wand. There were days I doubted, days I stumbled. Old habits crept back, anger, impatience, fear. I'd wonder if I was really different or just kidding myself. But every time I fell, Jesus picked me up. I'd read Psalm 23. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And remember, I wasn't alone. One of the hardest moments came last year. I lost my job in a company downsizing. Before, that would have crushed me. But this time, I leaned on my faith. I prayed, trusted, and doors opened. A new job, better than the last. It wasn't luck, it was God. The triumphs outweigh the challenges. I've seen miracles. Small ones, like a friend finding hope after I prayed with them, and big ones like my family coming to church with me after years of distance. Jesus didn't just change me, he's changing everything around me. So here I am, March 2025, a different person, not perfect, but redeemed. Jesus took a life that was falling apart and built something beautiful. I've got peace that doesn't fade, purpose that drives me, and a love I can't explain. If you're watching this and feel lost, I want you to know, you don't have to stay there. Jesus isn't just for me, he's for you too. Here's my advice, straight from my journey. 1, start small. Open a Bible, even if it's just one verse. Matthew 11:28 is a good one. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. 2, pray honestly. You don't need fancy words. Just talk to God like a friend. 3, find community. Visit a church, join a group. You weren't meant to do this alone. 4, trust the process. Change takes time. Let Jesus meet you where you are. 5, share your story. Tell someone what he's done for you. It's how hope spreads. My life isn't a fairy tale, but it's real, and it's good, because of Jesus. If he can change a skeptic like me, he can change anyone. So take that first step. He's waiting. And if you need a little more encouragement, here are 3 verses that carried me through this journey. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. This reminded me that real change starts from within, with him. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, and not to harm you. plans to give you hope and a future. Even in my darkest moments, this promised me a purpose. Philippians 4. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. When I felt weak, this was my lifeline, his strength, not mine. Wherever you are right now, know this. You are not alone, and your story isn't over.